PreCalculus, how to code the distance between 2 points in the Cartesian plane in C#. In this tutorial, we will describe how to write a C# program that computes the distance between 2 points in the Cartesian plane. For example, let us code the following. Okay, for this example, we are going to create a program in C# that describes the distance formula. In a previous video, in PreCalculus, where we tried to find the distance between 2 points, we described the distance formula. So we want to piggyback off that video and show how to write a program that implements or produces the same results. So let's begin. So to start off, let's open up Visual. For this example, we're going to use Visual Studio. And of course, this is Visual Studio for the Mac. Alright, so we're going to create a new project. I'm looking to create, just for this example, a console application. Let's name it distance formula. Let's create it. And it's going to produce a nice code template for us, or shell. Alright, so let's make the code a little bigger so everybody can see this. Let's zoom in a little more. And let's do one more. Alright, so everybody should be able to see this. Alright, so Visual Studio provided us a class, a program that contains a program class. So we're dealing with the distance formula. And with respect to the distance formula, we compute against 2 points in the Cartesian plane. So this means that we need to have some representation of a point. So let's create a class that represents the point. So let's begin. So let's start off. We have, so start off with public class point. And inside we want to have properties, or actually variables, that's going to represent the x and also the y. And next we want to create a constructor that represents the point. So when we actually instantiate this point, it's going to take in an x, and it's going to also take in a y. So we set the private variables using the values that are passed in. And also for this point class, we want to create a couple of properties. One property will represent the x. In other words, we'll be able to set or retrieve the x values from the class. So what we'll do is call this x. And then we have some getters and setters. In this case, we return an x. And also, let's put that back. And also allow it to set an x. Now we need to do the same exact thing for the y. Set the getters and setters. And this will handle the y values. Alright, and so that should complete the point class. Next, we're going to create a method that represents the distance formula. In the previous video, we discussed the differences between 2 points in a Cartesian plane. And we use a Pythagorean theorem to derive the distance formula. Well, when we deal with the Pythagorean theorem, we have the equation x squared plus y squared equals r squared. And so the x squares represent the differences in the x coordinates between point 1 and point 2. And also it represents the differences between the point 1 and point 2, the y coordinates in those points. And when we apply the formula, we produce the hypotenuse of the right triangle, which represents the distance between the 2 points. So let's go ahead and begin. So we want to call this method distance between 2 points. And then we're going to pass in a point 1 and also a point 2. And as we said that, we're going to look at the differences between the x's. And we'll do that by this math power function. And what we'll do is let's get the differences between the points. We're looking right now, we're dealing with the x's. So we're getting the difference between the x coordinates of point 1 and point 2. So we have point 2x minus point 1x. And then we want to raise that to the second power. Let's do the same thing for the y coordinates. Also, let me move this up so that everyone can see. There we go. So we have P2 for the y, but this time we get the y value. And then we minus P2, or put P1, and then we get the y value from there. And then we also have to raise this to the second power. Then after that, we have to return the square root. So we'll do this with the square root function. And then we'll take these differences. And what this represents is the square root of x squared plus y squared. And so this completes the method that represents the distance formula. So next we're going to go down to the main method, because this is the entry point in any C# program. And what we're going to do is we're going to instantiate 2 points. So we have P1, and for this example, what we're going to do is use the same point values that we used in the previous video. So the previous video, we have for the point 1, we had an x coordinate of 4, and we had a y coordinate of 1. And then for point 2, we had a x coordinate of 9 and a y coordinate of 3. All right, so we have, let's go ahead and actually call the method. There's our method right there. And let's pass in the 2 points. And we want to write it out. Let's use write line. Let's see here, console.writeLine. There it is. And we'll say, let's do here, let's say our expected value, expected output should be 5.385, and whatever decimals come behind there. So we'll put that there first. Then the next one, we will go ahead and let's see if it gets us in the ballpark when we actually run the program. So let's say something like the distance between the points 4, 1 and 9, 3 is, And then we'll represent that with a placeholder. Alright, the program is complete. Let's build it. Okay, let's run it. Let's see what happens. Start the debugger. And let's see what the output. And there we go. Let's make this bigger. There you go. So it shows our expected output was 5.385. And when we ran it into the distance formula method, we actually plug in the points with an x-coordinate 4 and 1, and also a second point that had x-coordinate 9 and 3, and it produced a distance of 5.385, which is what we wanted to show. This puts us in a position for my next tutorial, where we describe how to find the midpoint of a line segment. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you find this tutorial to be helpful, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, feel free to join us here at the Computing Sector. There will be more videos and tutorials coming soon. Thanks.